What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Welcome back to part 3 of our interview with Susan Dunn, where today we're going to discuss the breath work, the actual session, how it works, what Susan does, how it flows, and how it heals. But before we get to it, just wanted to thank you again for listening, watching, and just being there with us. And please, no matter where you are, which platform you're on, it would mean the world to us if you would please like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, send up a smoke signal, or whatever it took to let us know how we're doing and if you're enjoying our content. So thank you again. And now let's see what if you could, part 3 of our breath work with Susan Dunn.
Yeah.
No, that's so true. And so we covered the energy part, and I we talked a little bit about your entrepreneurial spirit and what you're doing and how important your father was to you, even though he left so early. I mean, at 10, but obviously he made a pretty big impact on you in those 10 years. Is that where you
Amazing.
got that entrepreneurial spirit, was from your father?
Yeah. Um, my dad was he worked for IBM, and he, we have 4 girls in our family, and he really loved his girls. Yeah, he was
Mm.
such a good dad. He I didn't get to experience this, but my sister told me he would be involved with the Girl Scouts, and he would take maybe it was Girl Scouts at that time, and he would take the girls and he would dress up like the storyteller, Mademoiselle, and he would find out information from the parents, and he put this thing together about goals for the girls, and then he would put on this little show for the girls, like come into Mademoiselle, and he would, I don't like, what a guy.
That's
Like,
awesome.
what a
That's so
guy.
awesome. What a girl dad. That is so awesome.
He was so good. Yeah, but the way I knew him, because he had very limited time of what, and I started thinking, like, sometimes I'm hard on myself, and why am I hard on myself? And when I did breath work, the message that came through was it was my dad, and that he had a very short period of time because he had pancreatic cancer, and they gave him like 3 months to live, but he lived for 3 years. And he had a very short period of time to instill what he needed to instill in this little
Wait.
girl.
He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and made it 3 years?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh,
And so
yeah,
we
he
used to
had
live,
something he needed to complete or
yeah, I
something,
guess
because
so. Yeah,
you don't get 3 years when you're diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
no.
Wow.
So we were living in Tarzana by Burbank, and he was driving to Westchester at the IBM in Westchester by the LAX airport. So that's, quite the drive through that pass and sitting in traffic. So I remember moving closer to Westchester so it would be closer to his work. And my dad, so there's this one thing where, so he worked at IBM. This is years ago, right? And he did a board meeting, and he wore a clown nose and clown outfit. Now, here is this guy in, IBM, because he wanted to make it fun and like where people would pay attention to to what the message he
That's
needed to get
awesome.
across. I'm like, what a guy. These things I learned.
That's what's
But
called breaking people's pattern.
right.
Except for this brutal, boring meeting no one wants to be in, to listen to a bunch of crap they don't want to pay attention to. And he walks in with a clown mask. It's like that movie with Robin Williams where he's the doctor and he clowned around and he made horrible, horrible end of life situations better by changing, the mindset, changing, people's
Yeah.
what they're going through at the time. And that's kind of what you do with breath work, right? I mean, it's what you do without the clown nose.
Yeah, right.
you know,
So
but
he
you had
was,
told me something very amazing. And again, maybe, your dad had a lot to do with that. And because you're not an entertainer, but you have to keep people involved, right? So they don't lose anything. So you really do have a sense of not the theatrics because it's not fake, it's real. But that's a big part of what you do. Maybe you got that from your dad.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't never thought of that. Oh, I'm just trying to keep people engaged for sure. But he was always one to teach me, like figure it out. And um, anything you put your mind to, you can succeed. And my dad was, I think he was uh, very forward thinking in his at his time. He passed away when he was like 48. And I remember he would always excuse himself from the dinner table and go lay down. And I remember one time I wanted to get out of the dishes, so I wanted to go talk with him. So I went into the room and we had this conversation. And he said that he would be leaving. Gary, check this out. Okay, here he is talking to his 10-year-old daughter, and I'm going to be leaving. And I said, "Oh, Daddy, you're going on a business trip soon?" And he said, "No." And he had to tell me that he would, he was going to be gone, but that he would come back and visit me in my dreams. Like, what a guy, right? And Gary, I have these dreams, and it is so real that he is there. I mean, it's like breath work real. It's that he comes and visits me in my dreams. And
Because he really does.
yeah, I believe
He
that's when we
really
get to be
does.
together. Yeah. And there was another time where when I had that on-site chair massage business, and this particular therapist was and she had embezzled some money from me, and I had found out. And clear as day, I'm driving down the road, and clear as day, like he was sitting next to me, like his voice comes over the radio, and he was telling me how proud he was of me. And when something like when you're young and things happen, everything seems so volatile and big, and really you can get through it, and you look back and it wasn't a big deal to deal with. And just clear as day, that was the message, is that you're going to get through this, you're going to be okay. Because I was just devastated. Like, why would anybody ever do that? I would totally help anybody. Why would anybody steal from me? Like,
Yeah.
be deceiving like that. But that's what I'm saying, that I think that they're there and they help guide us.
Yes,
So
I hope so. Like I said, I know April's there. I know that she guides me all the time. Um, when we were doing the session and you wrapped up, and I hope I didn't take away from you describing what you do. Did you get a chance to do that? Because or do we just have to get people to take the class? Because maybe it's not something you can describe. I mean, can you describe what you
yeah,
do?
I can take you through, a session, kind of what we do. But Gary, it's just like what you said. What people are going to receive is exactly what they need to get. So, and they just need to keep coming and trying, because there's different layers to it. So maybe, like you said, it was like some grief that needed, healing, but you got it in a different way, or a message, in another way, that something else needed to be healed before that. you know, there's just layers to it. So when people come in, we stand in a circle, and so I also offer Zoom classes too. So we can go through that. It's a little bit different. But when people come in, we get in a circle, and I do a grounding exercise. And we're doing the tapping to open up our meridians. And then I do the buffalo drum. Remember that, the buffalo drum?
Oh yeah.
So the buffalo drum is, I'm putting a vibration into the body. And sometimes,
Is that to open us? Is that
yeah,
the vibration to open us?
yeah, that's to get your body ready for the work. And then, Gary, there's just people where their tanks are so full. I think in life, when enough's enough and you're full, and like your body just can't take anymore, then sometimes that will actually, um, I'm affecting the nervous system at that point, and that you'll just release right there. In that is something that your body needs just to accept. But the vibration, if you tune into that vibration, you're going to feel it in other areas of your body than different areas. Some of the vibration is going to be stronger, and those are areas that are tight or stuck. Okay. So I go around, and we do the buffalo drum, and then you guys lay down and you put on your eye mask and your headsets. And then I read you a poem. Do you remember the poem? Yeah. So the poems are, they vary. So that one was my favorite poem, was about your relationship between your heart and what was it, your heart and head, connecting your heart and head, and how we don't typically do that. Sometimes we're living in one or the other.
Yep.
Um, Other things are about letting go, or, I have various poets that I pull from. So I'll read a poem, and then we get into the breath work. And the first three songs are typically where that critic is going to talk and, say all kinds of things and keep you busy, because our brain doesn't want to do hard things. And so, but then after the 3 minute, or after the three songs, typically that will quiet down. And then you can dive down more into inner guidance. So you just stay with the breath, keep listening what's going on in your headset or what I'm saying. And then towards the end, remember the big yell we did. So then I hit a gong, and I have this massive yell, and that's difficult for people. There's a lot of people that this is really to open up the throat chakra, because not always are we in our life speaking our truth, and we hold back.
And
And
you know what I
then,
thought was so interesting to help people with that is you gave us a hand towel and
yeah,
you're like, scream into this. And I thought that is so brilliant, right? Because that takes away the stigma of, oh, I don't want to yell. Like you said, we can't be loud. We're taught not to be loud as kids, especially, and stuff like that, right? So if I can muffle it with this hand towel, then I can authentically really play along and yell. And I thought, "God, that was brilliant."
yeah, that's
And I'm sure that's why you did that intentionally, right?
exactly. Yeah, so people can show up for themselves, because not everybody will just, go ahead and do a scream or a yell or their favorite noise that they like to do or whatever, that it helps people go there, because you don't want to get back in your car and then be, oh, I kind of half-assed that. I didn't do, so it just allows people to really fully show up for themselves, I think. And then I sage the room, and then I come around, and that's when I was doing some energy work too. Although in your session, whenever you're experiencing, or if I feel some energy coming around you that needs to be released, then I'm putting hands on and within the session. But then afterwards, after saging, then I do some hands on. And then we did those beautiful heart moments where I filled you up with love and gratitude, and really thinking about, the people that you love in your life, and filled you up with all that at the end. Yeah. So,
It's a beautiful journey. I tried to come up with words for it, for this podcast. Like for you, I couldn't really come up with a word that I felt adequate. Gift kept coming up, blessing kept coming up, but I couldn't quite come up with a word for you for what you gave me in the course. I get emotional thinking about it, but I wish I had an appropriate word for how much it touched me, and I don't. So it's the journey I want to take with you. And I remember one of the things you said is, I want to have 1,000 people. Like, we want to rent the Coliseum or the Staples Center or something and have 1,000 people laying
why not?
around. Wouldn't that be awesome?
I have it all planned out. I visualize it, that's what, when you were talking about manifesting, right?
Yeah.
That, and Gary, this is totally, it's not about me, right? This is because I want people to know the power that they have inside themselves, that life doesn't have to be so hard, and it can be easier. And it's, it, it just doesn't have to be so hard and heavy, get back to simplicity and joy and happiness in your life. So I do visualize this big this big session, and I have it all planned out how that's going to work. And maybe someday that'll happen. But it was
Well, it's
funny
going
about
to happen. I'm going to be there.
it's funny about the manifesting, right? Because in my breath work, my personal journey of what I've manifested has been crazy. I mean, Gary, I can't make the stuff up, the stuff that comes. Okay. And I just put it out there, and then I just leave it alone. And I always end my manifest just, and so it is. And so it is. It's already happening. It's just time has to catch up to it. Because I don't keep like harping on it. Oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, because then you're telling the universe that there's a lacking of that. So you don't want to put that vibration and that message out, right? You have to trust that it's happening.
Yeah. You
So
trust
act like
and
it is,
release.
living
Trust and
like it
release.
is,
Yeah.
feel it like it is, and so it is. And then just let it go. Well, then things happen. So the message I had was, I wanted to do this 1,000, right? And the message was like, okay, I'm going to start you off with 100. And I'm like, okay. So then 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from a local agency, it was Hark, and they said, will you come and do a luncheon for us? And we have 140 people that are going to come, and we'd like for you to do a breathwork session with them. I'm like, all right, let's
All
do
right.
this, So that was so much fun, talk about my public speaking. Boy, I had it, it's when you're sharing something so important, you remove yourself from it, when you're showing up. And I showed up and I did this little 5-minute presentation. And within 5 minutes, I asked everybody to put on eye masks. And I'd have to say, out of 140 people, maybe 5 people didn't. And I have to say that, wow, to gain that much trust with that little bit of time with people to put on eye masks, that was pretty cool. So everybody, thank goodness everybody participated and trusted me to be able to do this. And then I just took them through like just a 15-minute little tidbit of some breath work. And at least they got to experience it. But,
Wow.
yeah, 1,000 people do it. That would be amazing. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, literally,
Talk
we
about
could,
shifting the world.
right? I mean, we could literally like hook that up to the grid and just gain energy like solar power. It would be like, because our bodies have so, like you said, so much energy and we just block it. And for the last, since April passed, really, it's 10 years ago now, my manifestation mechanism is completely shut off. It's the most bizarre thing. I was the greatest manifester. I mean, it was almost dangerous. I'd be careful of what I put out there because
Okay,
it can
well,
also be dangerous, right? Bad things can happen. And but it's gone, it's off. It's when I lost her, I need to reopen up my manifestation and my I think it has a lot to do with belief and joy. I don't believe in myself as much as I used to, and I don't have as much joy, like real joy, not like fake joy. Yeah, I had a great day. It was a lot of fun. You know what I mean? But I mean, like that deep joy,
yeah.
like you get when you watch, like when I watch my grandson, I have serious joy, but not that deep joy that I used to have every day. I would just wake up so joyful. And so it's coming back. It's coming back. And you had a lot to do with that. And so I guess you've been so grateful with your time. I know we've taken a lot of time. So if I was to ask you, I know the goal, we're going to get 1,000 people in somewhere. If I was to ask you, what would be like your last, not your last thought, because we'll talk. I mean, what would you like to leave people with about you or about you do or about your work or life in general or energy? What would be a thought you'd like to leave people with as we sign off?
That we all have stuff. We all have had some negative things that happen to us in life. And I have to tell you that I have had to look at grief. I've had to shake hands with forgiveness. I've had to look at people pleasing and perfectionism. Boy, that's one to let go of. Forgiveness, did I say that one? Grief. And, I've had, childhood trauma. We didn't even touch on that. A lot of childhood trauma, and that um, all the stuff sticks inside of you, and you can release that and not have to carry that in your container. And with the breath work, it allows you to not revisit, you're not revisiting the trauma as much as like in talk therapy. Now, I'm a fan of talk therapy, but talk therapy because your brain doesn't know the difference. So you are, rehashing this trauma, where in the breath work, you could get answers within inside yourself to allow to release that, where you don't have to visit it again. So that life doesn't have to be as hard, and you can get back to joy and happiness and living your best authentic life, happy, healthy, discomfort free. I've had pain doctors that actually have referred to me, and thank goodness this one man, he doesn't keep shooting people full of cortisol or whatever they do. And because he realizes that, like I said before, you keep suppressing negative things, it's going to show up on your body. And I've had a handful of people walk out, their pain's totally gone. And it's because it was an emotional attachment to it, whether it be a car accident or a childhood trauma that is stuck in your body. So there's other ways, and there's so many tools out there. There's emotion code, there's a vast amount of tools. So investigate toolbox, in your toolbox of wellness, maybe try breath work and see if that works for you.
That was pretty awesome. I catch people off guard with that all the time, and people say, "Why didn't you tell me you were going to ask me that question beforehand?" And I go, "Because I want an authentic answer. I don't want something thought through or rehearsed or programmed, right? Because what you just gave us, of course, you just keep filling me with chills, but just such a beautiful, heartfelt, truthful, loving answer, because that's who you are. I mean, that's who you are. And I just,
Thank you.
anyone out there who hears this, and hopefully I can get this out to a lot of people, is you have to go meet Susan, see how authentic she is, and do this work. And let's help Susan Dunn and and Elements in the Desert get to 5,000 people in a session. Let's fill up the Coliseum and share your gifts. So again, I can't thank you enough. What I'd love if you would just take a moment, or as much time as you would like, and let us know, how do we reach you? Where can we find you? We were going to maybe offer people a chance to get in a session, whatever. So take a minute and share with us how we can experience this.
Okay. I want to touch on your thing. That's my goal, Gary, is a ripple effect of healing. A ripple effect of healing across, I always say across the valley, but now I'm doing Zoom. So why not further, right? So this is how you can do it. If you go to Elements in the Desert, okay, elementsinthedesert.com. And on the website, there's a lot of information about breath work, and there's different blogs on there as well. Here in the desert, I offer breath work at Gather Yoga and Wellness twice a month, twice a week, twice a month, twice a month. And then I'm at Yoga 6, Palm Desert in La Quinta. So we alternate, and we do that once a month. And then Del Webb. But all those bookings happen on the website. And then the Zoom sessions. So you can do it in the privacy of your own home. So sometimes people don't want to come in and be around other people, or, they're very conscious of that. Then you can do this in the privacy of your own home. And what I teach you, you can do on your own, and then come in for coach sessions once a month. So so we were going to offer a promo code. So if you use promo code WIYC 2024,
Stand for What If You Could.
Exactly. Say that again.
What's that?
Say that again.
What if you could?
Right. So WIYC 2024, we're going to do a promo code for $15 off. Okay, so anybody, that includes the Zoom. So now you're really talking about taking that down and making it affordable, for people.
Yeah.
So that's my gift for everybody. Gary, thank you so much for having me on here.
Oh,
I
man,
appreciate
my pleasure. I had one more question for you, and then I'll let you go. It's about the Zoom. Um, when I was doing some Zoom work with the grief recovery method, we were able to, we were doing some one-on-one, but we were able to have, 15, 20 people at a time on the Zoom class. So when you're doing a Zoom, is it only one-on-one? Or are you going to expand it where you can have like a room full of people, but on a Zoom?
I do class. Yeah, a
Awesome.
room full of people.
Cool.
Yeah, and most, people again are like, oh, I'm still with people, but everybody's cameras are, you're lying down and you're blindfolded. So, it's just for safety so that I can see that, everybody's safe and that they're doing the technique properly, and I can coach them if I see that they're maybe not.
Awesome. And,
So
and I think it's actually more comfortable for people to know, hey, it's not a one-on-one Zoom. It's not where it's just you and me. There's other people in the room and there's other energy, so you're safe,
yeah,
anyways, I can't thank you enough. You're so giving of your person, but you're so giving of your time for today. This was really wonderful, and I can't wait to go back and I'm going to go to Elements in the Desert, and I am going to do breath work with Susan Dunn. So thank you so much, my friend. I really
my
appreciate it.
pleasure.
Talk to
Thank you
you soon.
so much, Gary.
We hope you enjoyed part 3 and our final episode with Susan Dunn. Please join us for more episodes later this week as we continue to ask, what if you could?
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.